Welcome to New Possibilities. I speak truth to power without fear. This past Monday at 4:15 p.m., a 9-year-old African American boy was lured into an alley in Chicago, Illinois. After he was lured into this alley, gunmen fired multiple shots at this boy at close range, killing him. Here we have another example of the senseless violence that plagues Chicago and other cities around this nation. Black communities, plagued by brutality, plagued by senseless violence. This is outrageous. This is repulsive. And something has to be done. According to news reports, this wasn't a case of someone being caught in a crossfire. It wasn't a case of a stray bullet striking a child down accidentally. This was an assassination. And the police, and according to news reports, this violence was an act of retaliation against the boy's father, Pierre Stokes. Apparently, Pierre Stokes is a member of a gang, and that gang has been in conflict with another rival gang. And this is just another escalation of the violence between these two gangs. When I look at these kind of incidents, I'm completely torn apart because it just reminds me of how powerless we seem to be as a people to end this senseless violence. Obviously, the people who pulled the trigger are the ones responsible for this young man's death, this boy's death. They are the ones responsible. But they aren't the only people who killed Tyshawn Lee. They're not the only people who killed him. His father killed him by participating in a violent lifestyle that helped bring about this death, this untimely death of this young boy. If his father wasn't a gangster, if his father wasn't involved in this self-destructive lifestyle, Tyshawn would probably still be alive today. So Tyshawn's own father helped kill his own son, metaphorically speaking. The music industry killed this young boy. A music industry that celebrates this violence, that glorifies this violence, that makes violence cool. You have a whole art form in Chicago called drill music, where these young men glorify violence. They glorify death and destruction. They glorify genocide against their own people. And you have an industry, a music industry, an entertainment industry that makes millions off of that type of self-destructive music. That makes millions off of music that is essentially the soundtrack to our destruction as a people. A music that has destroyed the consciousness of our people. A music that has helped us descend into an even deeper depth of darkness and, and wickedness. When I see things like this, I just reflect on the sorry state of today's society, a society that produces gangs. The gangs in Chicago have been around for decades. For decades. This culture of violence has been with us for a long time. That culture killed Tyshawn Lee. The society that allows the violence to continue killed Tyshawn Lee. A mayor who hasn't done a damn thing in Chicago to address the problem of violence. Yeah, he's responsible for the death of Tyshawn Lee. The voters who allowed that man to be reelected, the voters who put that man back into office, even knowing that he has done absolutely nothing to stem the problem of violence in Chicago, they too are responsible for the death of Tyshawn Lee. The society that neglects the poor and allows communities to fall apart, that society is responsible for the death of this brother. We all bear responsibility for the death of Tyshawn Lee and all the other countless people when we do nothing when this violence occurs, except for hold a vigil after the fact. Hold a damn vigil. Crying over another young person killed. Now, in the news reports, I saw that a pastor by the name of Michael Flagert in Chicago spoke out and he offered to protect witnesses who came forward. That's the kind of action that we need from church leaders in the community. What use is a huge congregation, a huge church, if that church and that congregation do nothing, absolutely nothing to address these types of problems in our community? Our people need guidance. Our people need knowledge of self. And when I say knowledge of self, I'm not just talking about knowledge of their African history. I'm talking about knowledge of what it means to be a human being. I'm talking about knowledge of right and wrong, knowledge of righteousness and wickedness. See, when you don't have that kind of knowledge, you devolve. You no longer are a human being. You become like an animal, like a savage. Only a savage can commit such a crime. Only a coward could commit such a crime. And it's about time for the black community to stand up to these terrorists in our community, these people who call themselves gangsters. It's time for us to stand up to them and address them and deal with them. If people don't step forward, they too are responsible for the death of this young black boy. Here you have the father who won't even cooperate with the police. And I understand why people have reservations about cooperating with the police. I completely understand. But that's your son who's been killed. And you want to argue with the police and not be helpful to the police to give them the information that they need to capture the killer. That makes no sense to me. That just tells me you really don't give a damn about your own son. And that's a damn shame. This is what we have become as a society. That boy had so much potential, but that potential is snuffed out by a society that doesn't give a damn, by a father who really doesn't give a damn.